Hello, guys. Welcome back to the We Have Issues podcast. I am Matt.
I'm Carvell.
And I'm Chris.
And we just want to wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy Secular Holidays, if that suits you. Happy Hanukkah to Adam Sandler. However you celebrate the holiday season. So let's talk about today what has gone on with Christmas. Christmas nostalgia seems to be quite an industry. You can look up YouTube videos of this. You can go on multiple Facebook pages. Everybody kind of seems to pine for Christmases past. And why has that happened? What is this war on Christmas? Why have things changed? Seems to have been some religious animosity with certain phrases being used. Seems to be economic developments that have changed and things that have just changed culturally in general. But why is Christmas no longer the way it used to be? Why do I not like Christmas anymore? Is it because I'm near 40 years old?
Mariah Carey. That's why.
We haven't had a good Christmas song in a long time. We haven't. But anyways, so yeah, let's just kind of dive into it and talk about that. Let's start it off with, what are you guys' best Christmas memories? What is that one memory of that one Christmas that just really stuck in your head that you always go back to?
I think every kid has, no matter how old you are, like when you were a kid, there was always that one Christmas that you're like, man, that was good. For me, I remember there was this one Christmas where, my parents kind of psyched us into like thinking, guys, times is hard, and I just want to let you know, we love you guys, but you're not gonna be getting everything you want. And, at that time I was wishing for a Sega Genesis, with, all these games and stuff. And they were like, yeah, we'll still love you guys. And then, of course, coming up to Christmas, you're just like, well, whatever. I'm moping around, just sad, and, if you got siblings, it's even more like, the feeling, the atmosphere is even more intense. And then I remember on Christmas Day, as kids are, we wait and we anticipate, and then we see presents. And then I'm like, you know what? That box is unusually big. What could be in there? And of course, when I opened it, it was everything I wanted. And I was like, oh, man. But at this time, my parents, they didn't want to give praise to a Santa that didn't exist. They say, no, we did this, so it was never one of those like, oh yeah, look what Santa gave you. It was like, no, we gave it to you. You better be thankful, So when it got the presents, I was thankful. I was happy. I think I popped in that video game and stayed in my room that entire Christmas afternoon, evening. Just came out for dinner, or wherever we went for dinner. We probably went over to my grandmother's house, and that was a memorable Christmas. It was the expectation of not getting anything, but then your expectation changes because of, what happens. And that was, one of my memories of Christmas. And I'm sure a lot of people have similar memories.
My most memorable Christmas, I had just turned 18, I think, or something like that. I'm not sure where exactly it fell into the Christmas season. All I know is that it was around Christmas, either right before or right after. And me and a couple of my other friends had gone to stay the night at my other friend's house. And we got snowed in. And we got snowed in for a really long time. This was out in the hills of Indiana. And I think it was like a foot of snow. There's nobody coming to plow those roads. We were trapped there for 3 or 4 days. and like, the same change of clothes. We were eating spaghetti for 3 of those days because that's what they had to feed, 4 teenage boys. And oh my God, Napoleon Dynamite had just come out on DVD, and one of my friends just wanted to watch that over and over and over again. I haven't seen the movie since, and I don't think I need to. It's burned in the back of my retinas. but no, we had a good. We ended up having a good time. We did a lot of playing around in the snow, just hanging out like we always do. And to me, that's kind of one of those themes of Christmas, right? Adversity happens, but it's not about the material things. It's not about that. It's about the fellowship. It's about being with the ones that you care about, and the generosity, because their parents had to take care of us for that time. So that just kind of is like the penultimate Christmas for me, because that just hit all the themes that make the holiday important to me.
Mine's kind of similar to Chris's. When I was younger, we had this area of the house that was originally like a patio that they enclosed, and it still had like cedar siding and stuff and this outdoor carpet. And I just remember being in there and watching like Christmas cartoons and, rolling up in blankets on the couch and watching these like old German vintage Christmas cartoons and stuff. And we had our fireplace, and the fireplace had blowers, so it would blow the heat throughout the house, and they sounded like freaking jet engines taking off. So it was just, man, you had that warm fire, and you had that hum of the the blowers, and watching that, and it was real low key. It'd get dark outside early, and I don't know, it felt like Christmas. And like you were saying, Chris, gifts and all that, that stuff's cool. And, always like going out and doing Christmas pageants and looking at lights and things like that. But it was just being in home and being secure in there and nice and warm and watching stuff. That's what I remember. It just didn't feel as busy as it is today. To kind of segue off of that's one of the things maybe being a child at the time, I didn't recognize this, but my mom, she would take off work and she'd come home and she would start decorating, wrapping presents, especially during December. I mean, it was very Christmas focused. We did family activities, she and I and my sister. And eventually around Christmas, my dad would take time off work and he'd come home and, spend time with us. But it just felt like it was slower. Like now, I don't know about you guys, but I feel stressed around Christmas, and I don't even really do that much. Does it seem soulless now? Because, I remember going Christmas shopping, and you guys probably had something similar. We would all go out to the mall. The whole family would go, and it was just, the mall was awesome back then because, this is the 90s. Now it's like order a bunch of shit on Amazon.
Yeah, you're right, man. There's been a big culture shift. We're having smaller families. We're doing everything online. People are more individualistic. They want things their way or the highway. And there's a lot of advertisements, too, as well out there that's telling us, hey, this is what Christmas should be like. And to top it all off, the cherry on the top is we are getting older, right? So there's just a lot of big differences from when we were younger. You touched up on it, Matt. Like, let's talk about, we can order anything from Amazon. We do not have to go to the mall to find things, to search for things. We're not standing outside for 12 hours just to get the first thing at Target on Black Friday. We're not going out and looking for particular sales to give to somebody and then to be grateful, and stuff. I think that all of that is in the past. And, some of it's in the past for good and some of it's in the past for bad, and stuff. But the most notably is the experience. We're not going to have the same amount of experience. We don't have the patience for the same amount of experience, too, as well. I mean, yes, when we went to the mall and we, were looking for something and I got something cool, right? And let's say that I got a stuffed animal, whatever, to give to my niece, there is a good chance they'll be ungrateful for that, because kids these days are not really wanting that or not really needing that. And, social media or things they can get on the internet is suffice. There's not a lot you can do to give kids or even adults. I mean, my mother for the past X amount of years for my birthday has given me gift cards, because she says, I don't really know what you want, so here's gift cards, because we don't want to give you cash, And I do the exact same thing. When her birthday or Christmas comes around, I do the same thing, because that's what she would rather want. She'd rather buy something that she wants, but it just turns into this, let's just exchange money, which is kind of sad. Which is kind of sad.
I don't know if that's kind of sad though, Carvell, because I think we're kind of chasing after something that we probably shouldn't have been chasing after. Because that's the consumerist mindset, right? Buy the thing because it's the thing, and when you trickle that down, it just becomes a monetary transaction. To me, the holidays should be the big family dinner. The presents are given for the little kids because little kids love to open up presents. But once you reach that point, it's more about the togetherness, and that's where I think the focus should be on Christmas. With me, that's been the thing that's changed the most for me. Once my grandparents passed away, the aunts and uncles tried to keep that, the family get-togethers going on. But as we've gotten older, the grandkids have gotten older and had our own families. Different plans with different people, instead of going to, grandma's, you're going to your father-in-law's house. You're going to, these cousins are going to each other's houses and leaving alone. And I mean, that's just how it is, right? Because I mean, obviously that transition has to happen at some point, because I wasn't going to great grandpa's. I wasn't seeing my great aunts and uncles, so it gets to that point. But what I think is keeping that from happening more and more are the fact that wages aren't keeping up like they used to.
Yeah, certainly.
I don't know about you, but I don't know on my budget if I could host 12, 20 people at my house, let alone fit 10 to 20 people in my house, because I had to downsize because, I got to keep in with my budget. So that's kind of hurting people, especially since, during I don't even know if it started in the boomer era, but Christmas was pushed as this consumerist holiday. When you don't have money, you're kind of embarrassed to take part in the holiday. So that's how you kind of get people pulling away from celebrating Christmas the way it has been. And that's why we have that nostalgia to a time when we were growing up, when people actually could afford to have a Christmas.
Well, there's to me, there's an important distinction. So there is Christmas as a celebration, which is first and foremost what it should be, is celebrating birth of Jesus Christ. And then there is Christmas, the holiday. And Christmas, the holiday, is just by its very nature is going to be consumeristic. I mean, there's gifts being given. You decorate the house, a lot of charity and things like that's going on. Money is moving. And when I talk about a war on Christmas, I think we're past it being kind of this religious war. I think the left kind of overplayed its hand, hating nativity scenes and not wanting to say Merry Christmas. And I think that kind of fell by the wayside. What was your statistics, Chris? Only
25% of people think there still is a war on Christmas, and 50% would say absolutely not a war on Christmas anymore.
Right. And I think those people are, like I said, they're kind of still looking at it in the past perspective of, not wanting the nativity scenes, not wanting to just say certain phrases and things like that. But I think the war still exists because, like you were saying, Chris, the consumerism is kind of all we've been left with. First and foremost, you had a celebration that you got together with your family. You had the family time. You had the big dinner. You had the togetherness, and you had that. And then you had the magic of Christmas. And slowly, especially now that we're getting older, families dying off, you know, the kind of the old matriarch, the grandmother that held everything together, she's not there anymore. So you don't have that aspect of it. And now, like, I think it was you, Carvell, who was talking about the commercials are telling us Christmas has to be a certain way. Even the commercials now, like commercials during Christmas time when I was a kid were awesome. Like they were so over the top.
Right.
You know, you had like these all out Nerf gun battles. You had the creepy crawler machine was a big one, I remember. You had the kid come in and he was like a snowman and he'd eat the soup and then he'd melt and he's not a snowman anymore.
Campbell's soup, yeah.
Yeah, Campbell's soup. You had stuff like that. And now, like, I see Christmas commercials, and like I saw one the other day, and it was just literally snow and like 3 Lexuses pull up with bows on them, and that was the commercial. And so, you know, it's like they killed off the family aspect of it. They've killed off the magical aspect of it. Now it really is just the consumerist, you know, bit of it left. And I don't want to go on Amazon and just buy something for the sake of buying something. I want to go out and look and pick what I think somebody really wants. And like you said, Carvell, now it's commonplace to give gift cards. And like you said, Chris, you feel like you kind of obligated to give gifts to everybody now. And I really think that's something we need to get back to, is just focusing on the kids. Like, I think that's one thing that stresses adults out now is, why does everybody need a damn present? You know, like we bought presents for the damn dogs this year. Like, I mean, that's a little much.
But a lot of people are doing that, though. But you know, that's the thing about it, right? I think both of you guys touched up on really good points, right? Like, you know, where Chris, or you say, well, you know, was it bad that we stopped doing that? Because it's all about being the togetherness, you know, being together with family, and that's really what Christmas should be all about, right? Mm-hmm. It's us like loving our family members and being there. I can't tell you in this season, I can't tell you how many people this short winter that we had so far, and that is a message that, like, hey, you guys, we got to keep our loved ones close. You know, everybody's losing someone. We got to really keep our loved ones close, because we don't know if they'll be here tomorrow. You know, here today, gone tomorrow, and there's an importance to that. But then, Matt, in your aspect too, I agree with you as well. It's like there's that feeling that when you hear the word Christmas, you get a special feeling, like, this is how it is and this is how it feels. And when you're talking about, you know, as a kid, you're watching those commercials and, you know, everybody did it over the top and people were outside decorating their house with all these Christmas lights and putting stuff in the front lawn and all this stuff. And it just puts you into that mood. It's like, man, this is like, it's Christmas is here, it's coming, you know, you can feel it. You know, you turn on the radio, all you hear is those Christmas songs every year, and just like, you know what, I'm in the mood. You know, when people are genuinely happy, you go to the store, people are smiling and say, hey, how you doing? You know, you don't know who they are, but that's just, everybody's in that spirit because Christmas is coming, Christmas is near, and I have nothing but to be happy about. And that happiness is spread each and every individual. But, you know, right now, you know, what's unfortunate is that same joy that people might have going into like grocery stores or going into like, you know, whatever store. It's I feel like it's not the same because it's more of a rush. It's more of a, I need to get this done, you know, instead of I need to have this experience and get these things done along the experience. Mm-hmm. And so we've become a culture like that where we focus on time is money, money is time, and things. If it doesn't, I heard this guy say, and I hate it, but this has kind of been our culture, that if it don't make money, it don't make sense, and that's kind of what's becoming of our culture, right? Mm-hmm. But you know, a lot of times it's all about us taking the time and loving one another, and you know, talking about see where we're all, you know, going, and hearing cool stories for the holiday, and you know, but we, you know, we're not doing that. Maybe it's because we got older. You know, maybe we didn't see it when we were kids, and maybe we just got older and we're like, yeah, maybe that's why my father didn't seem as happy. You know, I don't know. You know.
Well, I mean, that's that to me is the best part of Home Alone, and I think that's why that debate comes up every year. That was the best part of Home Alone, was the entire family was in that one house together, man. And it's just the first opening scene where everybody's in the house, even though they are fighting, man. That's just like, you can't beat that. You can't top that. That's just good stuff, man.
Speaking of Home Alone and actors who appeared in Home Alone 2, Donald Trump has his own thoughts on Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. Let's hear this.
Yeah, I forgot he was in Home Alone too.
Not on TV. They took.
Really? Oh,
yeah. I don't
that
know
is a war on Christmas right there.
That's awful if they did that. Like,
no,
I don't care how you feel about Donald Trump. Don't take him out the movie, man. If he was there, just keep him in there, man. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. That did not ruin my whole holidays to see Donald Trump in Home Alone too. But what does he have to say? Is it the best holiday?
Donald Trump was in a rally in Pennsylvania. He was being asked about the effects the tariffs are having, and he said that little girls don't need 37 dolls. They only need 2 or 3.
Did say that.
So these tariffs, they've been, according to Trump, they've been making America so strong and prosperous, and you know, we are doing so great right now financially. If everything's going so great, why can't we afford $37, guys?
And we talked about this the other day. That has been, maybe it's the anarchist, the glutton for punishment in me, because it's kind of doesn't make sense. But that's my position. As a culture, as Americans, we need to get back to that mindset of World War II frugality, where you do only have the one doll, you know what I mean? Because you don't need any more than that. But simultaneously, I like at the same time to have the prosperity that if I wanted to go buy 30 dolls, we're in that position. So like I said, a bit of a double-edged sword, but we've brought that same quote up before, different context on the podcast before. Trump, nobody can afford 30 dolls. Like, people are having trouble affording the one doll now. And I've seen it just around here. We were talking about this. We had Christmas parades. This year, nobody really threw candy. I noticed a lot of the floats, it wasn't like it was last year even. And, that's just a year's difference. And I know it's got to be costs. I mean, we didn't do a float this year. Honestly, A, I ran short of time, but B, we just didn't have the money. Like, but with the cost of candy, like last year, we ran out of candy halfway through the parade route. And I was like, we could have spent $400 on stuff just to throw. That's not to build the actual float. And so, no, I don't think anybody's financially better off. And I don't think in years past that finances has been the number one killer of the Christmas spirit, but this year I would say it definitely is. And I've told you guys before, I've voted for Trump 3 times, and I felt like in 2016 that was a good thing. I felt like he would have been a better thing in 2020. Actually, to be fair, I supported Yang, but we saw what happened there. And then 2024, I voted for him, and I'm not seeing it. I have buyer's remorse about it. And of course, the liberals will say you told me so, but you also told me Kamala Harris is great.
I mean, if you're looking at like the economy, right, and the economy aspect of things, from 2016 to 2019, the stock market did grow a lot. So if you're looking at that period from 2016 to 2019, and you're saying my main focus on the country is for the growth of the country to have more money, doesn't necessarily mean the individual will have more money, because all it did was widen the gap between the haves and the have-not.
How many tariffs did Trump put in during 2016 to 2019?
I have not a clue. That's something I would have to look up. But
not the kind of tariffs he's doing now. I'll tell you that much.
Definitely not. But the thing about it that I did complain about at that time, which we saw, like what happened was that he was taking away of a lot of what I call insurances, right? Insurances they cost a lot of money. Nobody wants to pay insurance, but you love them when you do need it, right? And Trump was canceling a lot of stuff that I would call insurance. And one of the things that he canceled was that we had a watch group in China that were watching out for the next natural disasters or COVID diseases. And he pulled them away in 2019. And then guess what happened at the end of 2019? COVID happened, right? And this was put in place by the Bush administration. So the Bush administration put this in. Obama didn't take it as serious until the Ebola breakout came. Then Obama's like, holy shit, like let me double down on what George Bush was doing because of SARS. And he doubled down, and then Trump came.
My gosh, I forgot about SARS, man.
Yeah. and yeah, so you had SARS during the Bush administration, you had Ebola during the Obama administration, and they were both saying, look, the next one is going to be bigger and badder. And then in 2019, like Trump / all of our insurances was like, no, fuck that. We're not going to be looking in China for, these whatever diseases. We're not going to be looking in Africa for whatever these diseases. We're going to cut all the insurance and we're going to save money and build the country. And that's what he had been doing his whole first administration. But we got caught with our pants down, and that's why we took such a big hit. But let's just go back to say, though, from 2016 to 19, if you're looking at like how much the growth of the economy was, then I could see why you would justify yourself in voting for him in 2024, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't. I'm with Chris. Like, I think the stock market's kind of like the points are made up. What is it?
Right now, yeah. Yeah. You wrote on my article when I.
There's like 8 AI companies keeping us out of recession right now on paper.
Right.
We're living the recession. The people who aren't benefiting from this AI boom.
Well, like Carvell said, they try to play it down. That's the trickle down idea that if the stock market's doing well, everybody's doing well. I don't necessarily believe that. But what I saw, after Trump comes in 2016, we were able to buy a house, our first house, very reasonably. Mm-hmm. I took a big pay cut, took my first semi-professional job. I was only making like $17 an hour, which was less than I had been making, but we were living okay on it. We weren't, we were able to take care of basic expenses. We weren't worried about if the car was going to crap out or something like that. So we were doing well there. And then when I moved here, this is prior to COVID, shortly before COVID, we had a boom. We started hiring on people, very good wage jobs, and we had a ton of applications coming through. There was a ton of work happening, which probably, in fairness, was because people were seeing their portfolios do well. But just the working class in general not only had more jobs that they could apply for, the jobs were paying better. You were able to semi-afford housing. Even back then, it was kind of difficult here because our housing's inflated in Northwest Arkansas anyways. But the pressure wasn't there. Man, the pressure that came after COVID, and we never got over it. And like you're saying, Carvell, you can see why I voted for Trump in 24, but this is a cluster.
I think the biggest issue that the American people have is a lot of economic woes we do put on the president, but sometimes it's bigger than the president, right? Now, like when we're talking about tariffs or like going to war with other countries, yes, that could be put directly, the blame could be put on presidents, right? But like I kept on telling people in 2020 that they were raving about dollar gas prices. And I was like, you guys don't understand. This is the worst thing for our economy. Mm-hmm. Like if you have dollar gas prices, it is going to break our economy. And that's how inflation starts, right? That's the birth pains of inflation. Because the way I try to explain it to people is, okay, you got to understand that the people that are drilling for oil, these companies, they have a lot of equipment, and they take out a crap load of loans, a crap load, right? And who do they own these loans to? The banks, right? So they have a minimum baseline. If gas is not like $2.30, let's say, they're losing money. And guess what? If they're losing money and they have to pay back this equipment to the banks for it, right? They have to pay back to the equipment to the banks, then they can't make the money. Well, then guess what? They go bankrupt, right? So let's say you have 100 of these really good oily companies, and 70% of them go bankrupt, and they get downgraded. And now these banks don't want to loan them. Now you have 30% of these oil refinery companies, whatever, that are producing the oil that we need for our country to run. And then soon as COVID stops, guess what? The demand goes up because everybody has to drive to work. We have to gas the truckers to drive across country. We're flying planes now, and now these 30% of these companies are saying we can't keep up with the demand, so we just got to jack up the price. So now you got $5 you're paying for gas, because that's what it topped out in Michigan, right? $5 in 2022, I think it was. So you have $5, and guess all that money is being passed on to the customer, right? It's getting passed on to you, Matt. It's getting passed on to you, Chris. Getting passed on to me. Now I want to go to Kroger's and get something. They're saying, well, our truckers had to pay this much to get it from here, and they had to pay for this much to get in here. So now, customer, before, when you paid for this bag of grapes, it was $4. Now I got to charge you $7. I'm sorry. And now we got a tax on top of that.
It's all right, Carvell. We'll just keep stealing oil tankers, and then that'll cover the difference.
And now that what we see now, right, is that these companies, they are used to that money, and they're not going to go down on the price when everything starts to normalize. And guys, I welcome to you inflation.
Yeah. No kidding.
And we get screwed at it. You know, these companies, they go up and they get all this money, and guess what? We get screwed.
That's been my point. It's not even that things cost more, because inflation just happens. It's when inflation outpaces labor that it becomes a problem. Like my dollars that I make on my salary are worth less and less every single day because of inflation.
Right. Well, and that was kind of the whole point to me. Even as a kid, I kind of felt this way of Christmas. Was you work throughout the year, you pay your bills, you're putting back, your savings, you're stocking up. Christmas happens. It's the end of the year. It's time to go nuts and celebrate that you made it through another damn year of going to, 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. You don't even have that luxury anymore. And this is something it's very boomer-esque. I see people, say, oh, well, Christmas isn't an excuse to go nuts and spend and buy stuff on credit cards and all this. And I get that. You have to be responsible. But at the same time, why? Why? Who are you to tell me I've worked my ass off for 364 days and now I can't go buy the video game that my kid wants? We can't have a good time at the end of the year. You got Jeff Bezos out there demolishing whole damn bridges so he can drive his yacht through it and stuff. And I can't go out and have freaking eggnog. Come on, man.
I think another problem is the way that society is starting to be structured again. Is, I don't know about you guys, but they asked me to come into work on Christmas.
Oh, hell.
How many people have no choice but to work on Christmas?
Oh, there's a lot of people that have no choice.
So how can we expect those people to celebrate a holiday that they don't get any benefit from? Maybe that's why people are getting a little bit more standoffish about celebrating Christmas, because it's meaningless to them.
Well, and also too, we got to understand, right? This is exactly right now what we're discussing, and the problems is exactly what the feds have been trying to do. to decrease the spending of the American people, because that's how inflation happens, right? We spend too much money.
Consumers and the public don't control. That's not the kind of spending that creates.
Yeah, we do. We definitely control it. We definitely control, like, the more spending we do, right? If I were to sit at my home, not go outside, and just go on the internet every day and not purchase anything, that is actually more so what the government wants us to do, so that these prices won't go.
No.
Like okay, so think for an example, right?
Driven by monetary policy, Carvell.
Well, think about it, right? China's dealing with deflation, right? And the reason why they're dealing with deflation right now is because nobody's purchasing anything, right? This is just how China's
the government doesn't want deflation, though. They just want to decrease inflation.
Yes, decrease inflation
because they want the government needs us to be at like 2% inflation, because they need to encourage people to not save. If you save and inflation's happening, you're going to lose money over the long run.
No,
because they want you to spend.
Okay.
The goal is
naturally
have a spend, because spending drives productivity. Like that's the model. The inflation is caused by creation of loans, because that creates money.
So Carvell's he's of the kind of the supply and demand theory on inflation, and Carvell's way actually would work, and like Carvell is referencing China, and it does work over there, yes, because like you're saying, Carvell, they stopped spending, things deflated. And so Carvell is correct, we do have control of the market through our spending, but the issue is, like you're saying, Chris, you have to spend now. I mean, we're a capitalist, consumer-based economy, and if you wanted to stay home, I have tried it. If you wanted to stay home for one day and not spend any money, you can't do it. It's impossible.
Well, yeah, and the whole idea of this, right, is obviously our government, our country needs to be stimulated, right? We do need to spend money. Like, that is absolute, right? But we're just doing it a little bit too much, and that's where it's like, like, for example, homes, right? Everybody's, especially these boomers, right? I read a statistic, or I read something that the boomers are purchasing more homes than both the Gen Z and the Gen X.
Yep.
I know, Gen Z and the millennials combined, right? So if you think about that, right? What the government is trying to do is when they were raising interest rates, they're trying to say, hey, you guys, stop raising the price of these homes. We need people to actually purchase the homes that need it, because when you start to inflate the economy, what happens is you have the haves and you have nots. The have-nots are unable to purchase anything. And what is that going to happen? One day the haves will say, you know what, I just need to stop buying things, and then the economy goes to crap, right? So I think the feds are trying to control the government, to control the spending, not in a way to deflate the economy like in China, but in a way to like stabilize how we spend our money. And that's hard to do.
Well, from the housing perspective, I mean, that's something everybody's concerned. Everybody's wanting the feds to drop the interest rate on houses and stuff like that. That does no good. You have got to stop. You've got to penalize. You certainly need to get like BlackRock and Vanguard out of residential property. That just needs to be put completely into, cut the head off the snake, kill that. But even people need to be punished for buying. A good friend of mine, very good friend, dude's about to run into like 3 houses and going to probably make it 4 soon. Why? Like, housing, I understand being able to rent property, and there is a real estate business, but your primary income should not be from renting out houses. Housing shouldn't be treated like a commodity, because that was the whole idea of America, is you come here and you get a little piece for yourself to call home. And going back to why people don't want to celebrate Christmas, you have to have a home to celebrate Christmas in. You have to have it full, where your kids can run around and have a good time. And no disrespect to anybody out there, you can't celebrate Christmas properly in a damn studio apartment. You just can't. And so, yeah, I mean, the housing market right now is an absolute mess, and lowering these interest rates is going to be good, probably be very good for me because we got screwed on our house. But at the same time, if you're not going to stop the just overconsumption of housing, it's not going to do any good.
The issue I feel is we've had a philosophy since, I don't know, the 70s, 80s, somewhere around there, of asset consolidation. Fewer and fewer entities controlling more and more of assets, and that creates higher barriers to entry, which stifles competition, which drives you into these monopolies and oligopolies that people take advantage of, and it's not good for the country. It should be illegal to use the software to determine the most efficient rents for people, for renters, because that's just price fixing on a national scale. And we already have laws against price fixing. It doesn't allow for competition between markets. Now, you make the point that, like, everyone should be able to access the best stuff to get what they need, but like, you're not following market trends. You're just pegging a number, and everyone else is pegging their prices to that number.
Yeah, and it's all made up. I mean, a good example of this, so back where I'm from, we had this area called Lakeshore, and I remember, so when we sold our first house, we did improvements to it, and I think we put it on the market for $115, and somebody came along and offered the full 115, and it appraised for 112. So 112 is all that they could pay, and I was a little bit ticked off because I was like, well, I said, how do you figure what the house is worth? And they said, we go by comps. We look at comparable homes in the area. But to me, I'm like, it's worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. It ought to be. And so how, a realtor never could explain to me. So we had an area called Lakeshore where it was really weird because they'd have like these $1 million mansions right next to like old double wides and stuff. And so I'm like, so when somebody goes to sell the mansion at Lakeshore, do we look at the comps and be like, well, this is actually only worth $20,000 because that's what all the trailer houses around are worth? When we first moved to Northwest Arkansas, we have such an influx of Californians with extra money coming in. We were getting out competed because people were offering 10, 15, 20,000 over asking price.
Cash. And in cash.
Yes, and
so they can do that.
And and then because I told our friend Dan, he was our realtor, and I was like, hey man, I was like, this house, because he would come back and say, well, they offered 10 over. Do you want to offer more? And I'm like, we can't. And I'm like, the house isn't worth that. And he would be like, oh, well, the house is worth whatever someone's willing to pay. And I'm like, bullshit. That's not how it happened.
It is when you're paying in cash. It is when you're paying in cash. One thing I wanted to bring up, though, the war on Christmas isn't just, secularism against religion. I think that there's also a case of Christmas is getting politicized in certain aspects. I've read stories about manger scenes being made more inclusive. I've seen things about not having the Holy Family in the manger because they're immigrants and we don't have immigrants anymore to make a stand against, that sort of thing. What do you guys think about using Christmas as kind of like a political platform for some people?
Leave it out, man. That's not what it's for. It's supposed to be a good time for all to have. I mean, we've had an issue here this week. It made national news because Fayetteville, in their Christmas parade, they had Krampus and a bunch of crap in it, which nothing against. I mean, I really don't care if you like the Krampus stuff, but it was really over the top scary, and it scared the hell out of the kids. And that's my position. Like, does this have anything to do with peace, love, kids, stuff like that? No, leave it the hell out of Christmas. Like, we don't want that. The manger scene, like, oh, heaven forbid we have brown people in the manger scene, right. Middle East. That is unhappy people who are looking for clout and will do anything to just get, it's rage bait. It's real life rage bait's all it is.
Right.
Do you think that there is a case that we should make Christmas political if we feel that our government is not being very welcoming to people? Should we not bring up the fact that Jesus brought everyone? He brought the rich wise men, the poor shepherds. They all came to bring him gifts. So could you make a case that we could use Christmas as a means to kind of encourage our leadership to act in a more moral manner?
Yeah, but I mean, no, man, going out there and messing with some damn plastic manger scene's not going to do anything. The best, if you want to use,
I mean, it doesn't even have to be that. It can be like a preacher on the pulpit. It could be,
well, that's what I was going to say. It needs to be contained within the church, within the community. Donald Trump's not going to care what you do. He's not going. There's no Christian message like, oh my God, dude, that's what we need to do. We need to do a Christmas Carol where Donald Trump is Scrooge. That's what we need AI to do. We have got to make that. But Donald Trump wouldn't have the epiphany of Scrooge is the thing. And the government in general isn't going to have the epiphany. And so Christmas, it needs to be community based. Keep it within the church. Help people where you can. But the rage baiting for X posts, it's not going to do any good. It's just going to drive more division. So I'm not saying don't make Christmas political, but if you do, keep it in the context of your own community and your own resources.
The thing about it is that we know in this time and age, this is not the 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, political culture, that we're living in today, right? And when I'm saying that is like, now I'm thinking to myself, it doesn't matter exactly what we put in the forefront of our political leaders. They have an opportunity and a way of manipulating the way we perceive things for their agenda. And in saying that, I would think that like the idea of Christmas would completely change based on whoever has the say so, or who's ever in charge at that time, when it comes to like the Christmas idea or the holiday idea. I see an opportunity that as weird as it sounds, this sounds weird, but Christmas could be weaponized. And and it could be, right? Like it sounds ridiculous, right? And it sounds funny. And if I was on the other side, if I was sitting in your seat, Chris, or if I was sitting in your seat, Matt, I would say, Carvell, you sound pretty ridiculous. There's no way. How do you weaponize Christmas?
Son of a bitch, the French Legion is going to kill somebody with Christmas.
No, go.
But for an example, you could have a president, maybe who's as conniving as Donald Trump and say, this is what Jesus would want. And Jesus died on the cross. And he was born on this day. And this is a day that we need to remember Jesus. But these liberals out here are trying to do whatever they can to stomp on the name of Jesus in Christmas. And as an American, this is what you need to do.
I think we're going to see that on its Truth Social on Christmas.
I mean, we probably will, right? And then when you get a lot of people that gets behind a leader because he's doing a lot of right things for them, then they'll follow him wherever he goes. And that's all it will take. There's a war on Christmas earlier today, right? And there's a lot of 25% of the country thinks there's still a war on Christmas. And if that's so, right, we'll start fighting people who says happy holidays, saying that these are Christian deniers, these are Jesus deniers, these are false. So that's where I'm saying it's like this could be a weapon. Or if it's the very opposite, right? Let's say Mandani somehow becomes so popular. Oh, wait. He wasn't born in America. Okay, let's say we do get a Muslim.
AOC is a good one.
AOC, let's say she does one day become president, right? And she says that, you know what? I think this holiday discriminates against every other religion. And what we're going to end up doing is we're going to change everything about this holiday to make it inclusive, right? And that would be something that a lot of people won't like. But she could use that holiday, and I'm not saying that she will, right? This is hypothetical, right? But a leader could end up using a holiday such as Christmas, and they could weaponize it. That is very possible. And so that's where I'm getting at, right? Is that we got to be really careful. We have to be more so careful of the leaders that we allow into our country, allow into our political office, than we do have to be wary of the holiday. But at the same time, we got to be very careful of saying that, hey, Christmas, let's give it to politics. In politics, you dictate how it goes.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we joke, but I mean, Carvell's stance on this, this idea of weaponizing is perfectly valid, because I know everybody's heard the story, and I'm sure it's embellished, and there's not, it's not 100% true, but during World War II, during Christmas, the American and German soldiers put down their arms, sang Christmas carols. Some even say they crossed lines and exchanged gifts.
World War I.
Ate together. What's that?
World War One.
Was it? Oh, one.
World War One. It was the British and Germans.
Okay. Thank you.
They might have done it in World War II as well, but
Right. And like I said, who knows the embellishment on that? But anyways, and that's kind of where I was coming from with it, is rather than use it as a time to bring up, any kind of political grievance that you have, it should be a time for everybody to just put that crap aside and reset as human beings together. But that's how I look at it. Yeah. Well, for our Thanksgiving episode, we offered prayers, to all of our viewers, all of our listeners, and just to the world in general. And since Christmas is a celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ, it only seemed fitting to do it here as well. So if everybody would just join in real quick with me, and let's just bless everybody that we can for this holiday season. So, Father, Lord, please be with us throughout the season. Help us represent you the way you would have us do to everybody, those in need, those who are doing well, just everybody that we come into contact with. Please help us keep in the front of our minds what the reason for this season is. Please help us help others this season see what the true meaning is. Give us prosperity. Give us good times with our family. And as I said earlier in the episode, Lord, please just lead us into a reset, a time of reprieve where we can appreciate our fellow human beings and hopefully come to some common ground and show love. We ask this in your name, and we thank you. Amen.
Amen.
Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in. Please keep watch for the ETTPS network that we will be appearing on. Thank you guys so much. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Appreciate you listening so much. Please like, comment, stir some stuff up in that comment section for us. I'm Matt.
I'm Carvell.
And I'm Chris.